Well, let's just say this is either the first time you've heard it or, you know, you've heard it a billion times. I'm just another person on the internet here to give you an opinion about Supergirl. And cut to review. All right, so over the weekend, a couple of films came out, both of which you're going to be getting videos for. One's going to be a surprise, and then this one is not a huge surprise, I'm sure, to anyone. But I am, in fact, going to be giving my opinion on uh, Millie Alcock, Millie Alcock's Supergirl. Craig Gillespie, the director of Lars and the Real Girl, and Cruella, just to name a couple that I know him from his work, returns again. His movie Supergirl is probably the best example, I think, of under promise and under deliver. Now, I want to be very, very clear before I get started. I actually supremely enjoyed Millie Alcock and Jason Momoa and the cast of supporting actors and actresses in this film. I don't think the hate is founded in anything on the internet, if you've seen that at all. And if you haven't, my hat's off to you, because it's almost unavoidable at this point to see something and then just feel like, oh, well, maybe there is something there. But ultimately, I do feel like this movie is, lacking. The action scenes, in a very big way, are, very hard to watch. Sometimes they're very muddy and gray or green coated. Lensing kind of makes it almost unwatchable. The camera work is spotty at best, and you kind of need both of those things in a superhero film to stay relevant. I feel like its predecessor, Superman, was definitely way better on both of those accounts. But I do feel like Millie Alcock and Jason Momoa carry the majority of the film, despite, Jason Momoa obviously has a limited screen time as Lobo. And I feel like Millie Alcock tries to carry a character piece arriving far too early in this barely budding universe. And I fear it fails to deliver even a semblance of solid storytelling or meaningful advance in the overarching universe. Now, a lot of people will probably attack me if they ever heard anything about this opinion that I'm giving on the internet. But ultimately, I don't think it fails in any significant way. I just feel like it missed. It's not a catastrophic miss, it's just a miss. And this happens. I think back to the early days of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, when we had films like The Incredible Hulk or Thor 2, The Dark World. Both were redheaded stepchildren and given to directors who didn't necessarily know how it was all going to connect, or if it was even going to connect at that point in time. Obviously, the latter, Thor: The Dark World, had to connect something and introduce an element that would be used later on. But ultimately, I don't feel like either one did a fantastic job at it, even in the MCU. And people are a little more gracious with the MCU than they have been recently with the new gun DCU. That's barely 2 films in, and people are always saying that it's dead. I don't think that's fair to say. Ultimately, this film does lack. It lacks everything that should matter, including compelling visuals and exciting action, which usually isn't the case for most superhero films, and is actually the landing ground for a lot of films like this. This is a compelling story for women empowerment, and a superhero that, young women can really grab onto. She does give an interesting character piece performance in this film that I feel like can't be overlooked. And I do feel like in that regard, it does extremely well. It just lacks in anything resembling a strong superhero performance like her cousin, Superman, did extremely well at that last summer. in the summer of 2026 or 2025, depending on how long it's been when you've watched this video. Um, it's just I really wanted to like Supergirl. I went into it with the best of hopes. I was hoping that the opening weekend earnings, which were way below budget, in fact, most overseas theaters and some foreign countries have kicked it out altogether after its low to no showing. I actually had a pretty good theater show out in my local cinema, and so I do feel like this movie isn't failing. It's just not doing Toy Story numbers. And really, a film like this needs to be number one or number two at the box office. And I feel like currently it's sitting at about number four, right below Toy Story and still Backrooms. And I think even inevitably, I think Mandalorian and Grogu are even doing better, and possibly even another film that I'm going to talk about later this week. But I don't think this one deserves all the hate it gets, but it just feels like it fails to deliver solid storytelling for me. The script is missing. It definitely feels like it had several rewrites and several missing moments. And even the music, which again, the needle drops are here. Craig Gillespie, God bless him, does know how to needle drop. I know that James Gunn does as well, and I know he had a lot of say on the needle drops in this one. I feel like the music in this one is pretty creative choices, maybe overused overall, and we could have had some original ideas for this movie, but definitely, again, not something to sit here and say that I absolutely despised anything about this movie. It just missed. It's really too early, and I think in about 10 years, we'll be able to look back, and this one will just be another Thor: The Dark World type film for us all in a DCU that will be much more solid at that point heading forward. I have the highest of hopes for Clayface this fall, and of course, Man of Tomorrow coming out in 2027. I'm very hopeful for both of those ones to redeem and bring a redeeming quality to the theater. And I will say that this ultimately is a pretty good movie. Don't go into it thinking that you're going to see anything even close to Superman, or even something like a DCU project like Miss Marvel, or not Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel. But it's okay. It has a very Gunn-esque taste to it, which I feel like a lot of people gave him a lot of flack for this, even though he had very little to do with it. Which again, maybe he should have been a little bit more involved in the post, couple of days process before releasing this one. I feel like maybe that 25 minutes that they cut from the film ultimately would have given us a little bit more for Supergirl to do. But ultimately, I feel like her relationship with her little sidekick in the movie is ultimately, it's okay. It's nothing groundbreaking, but then again, it doesn't have to be. The story is a little bit hand-fisted in a sense of it's a story that you've seen before, but the villain is he's kind of bland. At times he tries to be intimidating and kind of creepy, but I think he just more comes off a little bit bland. Excuse me. But I think that ultimately this film hits its stride in about the third act when we start getting some of that final moment teaching lessons that we get from both Alcock and, of course, Momoa. He comes in and he's more just a casual, like, a note. I don't know why they had to put Lobo in this. He definitely feels like just a note. Same thing with David Cornsweet's Superman at times when he would pop on screen just to make an appearance or give context or a pep talk to our girl. He would just pop in and then pop out. But ultimately, I don't know why we needed either of them. But That's just another opinion. And listen, I will say this is a fine movie, and it's not a waste of time. It's just not. It's not James Gunn quality, all right? Let's just call it like it is. His Suicide Squad was amazing. His Superman was amazing. So far, I've enjoyed, Creature Commandos. I've enjoyed parts of Peacemaker, and even the couple of things that he said about Man of Tomorrow and his universe moving forward being very, comic related, and the love that he obviously carries for this universe is there in pen and in practice. So I don't feel like we need to overly analyze this one. I think it's just a drop in a bucket that ultimately will fill up over time with more positive than negative. I remember a lot of these thoughts in the early days of the MCU when we were all wondering, what in the world are they doing with Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, Thor, some of those more oddball ones that like missed because of the direction and they didn't really know where the story was going at that time. But by the time we hit the first official Avengers team up movie, everybody was like, this is amazing. And it became, obviously, I have my posters back there. It became one of the biggest franchises still for superhero films. So I feel like it's way too early to say that it's over for the DCU because I've seen this work out fine. I just hope with the Paramount and Warner Brothers deal that Gunn can continue to tell the stories he wants to tell, even if maybe he says the script is solid and we end up thinking that maybe he was a little bit wrong. I don't think that it's worth getting all super hyped about and making crazy calls on the internet, which is why I'm not making any crazy calls on this film. Ultimately, if I were to give it a rating, I want to be fair. I'll give it about 5 stars out of 10. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's definitely worth seeing if you have nothing better to do over the Independence Day weekend. You're looking for something to do with your family and you don't want to go out and watch the fireworks, or you want to stay inside, you want to get into the AC of a movie theater. Go watch this film. It's definitely not worth it. It's a great movie. Support your local cinema, I always say. But other than that, I think that's about all I have to say. So it is time to, of course, transition to outro. Please like and subscribe. I've noticed all my new subscribers. Please comment down below. Let me know where you're from. I'd love to know where you guys are from. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing if you like what you see. I have so many other reviews on this channel, and I hope to do more. But until next time, even if I get outcasted by the internet for having an opinion on a film, at least we know this, that I will see you at the movies. All right, peace. Peace.